right, we're going to do a trial video. This is page 16 in Unit 11. All right, so this is a log function that we're going to graph. So first off, we know that that plus inside of the function tells us that we're moving left 3 units. Okay, so because the log base is 2, when I type it into my calculator, I know I have to use the log base function. So I go to y equals, I press math, I go down to option A, or we can use alpha A to get there, and it's log base 2 of x plus 3. Okay, I'm going to press graph. I'm going to look at what it looks like. So I can tell that from this picture, it appears as though I have my graph stopping at this point over here, which is going to represent my asymptote. Okay, so I'm going to press second graph to look at the table of values, and I'm going to scroll until I find my first error. So if you notice, -3 has an error. Okay, so I'm going to make my table starting at -3. So I know that my asymptote is x equals -3. Because it's a logarithm, I'm going to have a vertical asymptote. Then I'm going to just start my table then after that. And I'm going to pull the values off the table. So -2 is 0. -1 is 1. 0 is 1.585. 1 is 2. And then 2 is 2.3219. Okay, so now when I graph the logarithm, I'm going to start by putting up my y-axis and my x-axis. And I'm going to graph my asymptote of -3. X equals -3. So 1, 2, 3. This represents my asymptote. It represents my electric fence that I can't touch and I can't cross. Okay, now I'm going to graph my values. So I have -2, 0, -1, 1, 0, 1.5, 1, 2, and 2, 2.3-ish. Now, even though there are no values on my table in between -2 and -3, there are plenty of fractional values between -2 and -3 that I could graph. So I could change the delta table to find more values in between, or I can just be careful when I connect my points that I have my logarithm approach the electric fence. It doesn't touch it. Arrows on both ends, and I'm going to label my graph. Okay, now I can answer a couple questions about this. I can answer what's the domain and what's the range of the function. And we know the equation of the asymptote because we did that in the beginning when we found our first error on the graph. Okay, so the domain is left to right. So the domain has a restriction because I have my electric fence here. So my domain doesn't go past -3. But there isn't a restriction on the other side. There's no fence on the other side. So there's no restriction on the right side. So my domain starts at -3, it never touches it, because remember that's the electric fence, and it goes off to infinity, it never touches infinity. That's my domain. My range is low to high, so if you notice there's no restriction on how low the graph can go. There's no wall blocking it off, and there's no restriction on how high it's going to go. It's going to go high slowly, but it's going to continue to get high. So there is no restriction on my range, which means that my range is either all real numbers, or I can say -infinity to +infinity, meaning that there is not a restriction. And that's how you graph a logarithm. Now, hopefully the videos in the future are going to get better. We're all trying to figure this out, but hopefully you find this helpful.